Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It is Crimemas Day 2 and today we will be talking about the case that shook Malaysia to its core. Today we will be talking about the vicious murder of Canny Ong. Canny Ong Lay Kian was born on July 18th, 1974 in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. There she lived with her father Ong Bijeng, her mother Pearly, and her sister Elsie. At the age of 21, she moved to San Diego, California, where she later became a successful IT analyst. She also got married to her best friend and the love of her life, Brandon. Canny was definitely living her life to the fullest. She had a great career and was in a blissful marriage. However, in 2003, Canny Ong made the decision to come back to Kuala Lumpur to care for her then ailing father. As soon as Canny found out that her dad was diagnosed with a rare type of cancer, she did not hesitate to come back and take care of him personally. After a successful operation and recovery, Canny was set to come back to her husband in San Diego, but before this, she wanted to have a farewell dinner with her closest friends and family. Now, this was held on June 14th, 2003 at the Bangsar Shopping Center. This was also supposed to be a celebratory gathering for her father's improving health. But sadly, this was not the farewell dinner she was expecting as the night began to unfold. After having dinner, when everyone was in line to pay for their respective parking tickets, Canny realizes that she had actually left hers and her mom, Pearly's car, telling the rest that she'll be back after retrieving it. However, after a full 20 minutes had passed by, Canny wasn't back. Worried, her mother and sister and close friends decided to go check what was going on. And to their surprise, there was no sign of Canny nor the car. She was a grown 28-year-old woman. She could have left without telling anyone. However, this was not likely as Canny knew that her mother was getting tired and she also planned on bringing her home first before spending the rest of her night with the same group of friends who also attended the dinner. Now they tried calling her multiple times but to no avail. Each call went straight to voicemail. In a panic, they reached out to the mall security to look at the CCTV footage, and this revealed something that they all feared. As Canny Ong was trying to look for her parking ticket, a man comes up behind her and shoves her into the car before getting in himself. This man then starts driving like a maniac, heading to the underground parking's exit, smashing through the barriers. This was immediately reported to the police, while Canny's friends and family also drove around in hopes of seeing her or Pearly's car. They soon received a call from Brandon, Canny's husband, worried as to why she wasn't responding to any of his calls, and this is when they told him the devastating news. Canny had gone missing. She had been abducted. Now for days, the family tried to plead with the public, asking for Canny's abductor to kindly return her home safely, or if anyone had seen anything, please report it to the authorities immediately to help with this case. Sadly, no witness came forward and no one even asked for a ransom fee. A few days into the investigation, Pearly's car was spotted abandoned on the side of the road. There was a clear indication of foul play as there was blood on the back seat of the vehicle. One of the front tires also seemed to have been slashed. Now, 4 days later, at around 3:25 p.m., a gruesome discovery was made in a construction site by a construction worker. Now, this worker smelled something foul like burned rubber, and absolutely bothered by the stench, he decided to investigate where this odor was coming from. He then spots a manhole near the edge of the construction site. He remembers this always being opened and uncovered, but strangely, on this day in particular, It had been closed, but decided to open it anyway. And this is where he discovered a woman's charred remains, covered by two car tires filled with cement. Members of the Royal Malaysian Police Forensics Units were dispatched to the scene right away, and within an hour, the area was swarmed with members of the media as well as some onlookers. Photos were taken and published in the newspapers, none of which were censored. And upon seeing this, Pearlie knew right away that that was her daughter. This body was later confirmed to be of Canny Ong's via DNA testing and dental records. She was only 28 years old. An autopsy was performed and the results were nothing but horrific. Canny was found with her hands bound with a thin piece of cloth. She received burns on 90% of her body, which was destroyed from the waist down due to the weight of the cement-filled tires dropped on top of her. She was also found to have been stabbed twice in the abdomen, and on top of all that, she was also violated. Semen was found inside her body. 3 days after Canny's body was discovered, an undercover police officer came out with crucial information that would later help solve this gruesome case. According to this police officer, on the morning of June 14th, he spotted a car similar to Pearlie's parked on the side of the road. Finding this quite odd, he approached the car and saw a man and a woman, asking them what they were doing on that very spot. Now, reportedly, the man tells this officer that they were just talking about some dispute between his girlfriend and her family. Now, the officer was not convinced and asked for the man and woman's ID cards. He also noted that the woman had a look on her face that made it seem like she was desperate and begging for some sort of help. This officer then asks the woman to step out of the vehicle, but before she could even open the door, the man steps on the pedal and makes a run for it. Surprised, the police officer then shoots one of his tires, but the man still kept driving like a lunatic. Now the officer gets on his motorcycle in an attempt to catch up with the pair, but there was nothing stopping this man, and soon enough, he had lost sight of the car completely. He then surrendered the confiscated ID cards to the investigators, and there they confirmed that the woman he had seen days prior was indeed Canny Ong, although this information was not made public at the time. The police never told the media that they had this vital information to avoid giving the perpetrator a chance to go into hiding. So nobody knew that the authorities were closing in on someone, and this particular person had no idea that his confiscated ID was linked to Canny Ong's murder investigation. But despite knowing his identity, this man was quite a challenge to find. His name is Ahmad Najib bin Aris, and the police immediately realized that this guy was not only using a fake address, but had falsified employment records as well. A manhunt began right away. The authorities checked the National Social Security Agency for his records only to find another fake address. They then checked the marriage registry, and there they found out that he was indeed married. The police went undercover and had a stakeout in Ahmad Najib's wife's workplace. They then followed her home and stayed in hiding near the residence for a full 3 days before they finally saw and arrested Ahmad Najib. Now, according to investigators, he showed no signs of emotions at all and was not even slightly intimidated at first. However, after a few hours of putting more and more pressure on him, he finally cracked and confessed his crimes to the magistrate against his defense lawyer's orders. He then assisted the police in creating a reconstructed timeline of events, and this is what Ahmad Najib had to say about what transpired that evening. According to him, he randomly saw Canny at the dimly lit car park and just took his chance. She was taken by surprise, and this just made it easier for him to successfully abduct her. He then threatened her with a knife, telling her that he would kill her if she attempted to escape. He first drove her to an industrial area where they were later spotted by the undercover police. After making a run for it, they then reached an empty construction site where he raped her for the first time. He drove her to a more secluded area and raped her again before stabbing her twice in the stomach. He then dragged her into a construction site and put her inside the manhole. As he was trying to shove her in, they both heard the morning call to prayer coming from a nearby mosque. Canny, who was very sick at this point, tried to beg her attacker, telling him to just go home and pray because she wanted to send out her prayers too. But Ahmad did not listen to her pleas, leaving her inside the manhole to bleed out. Canny Ong succumbed to her injuries sometime that morning. 16 hours later, Ahmad Najib returned to the scene with some petrol and lit her remains on fire in an attempt to conceal his crimes and get rid of potential evidence. On September 15th, 2003, Ahmad Najib appeared in court, and for the first time, he saw Canny's family and friends. And appearing to have no sense of remorse at all, he even turned back to smile at Noreen, Canny's best friend. Shockingly, Ahmad Najib pleads not guilty as his defense team aims for him to be acquitted of his crimes, despite having already confessed to the magistrate. His defense team questioned the validity of the CCTV footage in the parking lot. It was dark and grainy, and even though the suspect is seen facing the camera for a brief moment, it couldn't really be confirmed to be Ahmad Najib. They also probed into the bloodied articles of clothing that was presented by the affirmative, saying that the red shirt, blue jacket, and jeans were not even proved to be of Ahmad's size. Aside from this, the defense team also questioned why a black belter like Canny Ong did not try to defend herself, also saying that all the evidence presented by the authorities so far were nothing but circumstantial. Hearing all of this began to make Canny's family and friends nervous. However, the authorities were confident, knowing that they had unreleased information and concrete evidence that would prove Ahmad Najib's involvement in Canny Ong's case. The cloth used to bind Canny Ong's hands was a special type of muslin cloth, used to clean airplane windows, and at this point, the police knew that Ahmad Najib worked as an aircraft cabin cleaner. This piece of cloth was cross-examined with the ones used specifically in his workplace, and it was a match. And finally, the most concrete evidence of all, the semen found inside Canny's body was a DNA match to Ahmad Najib. On August 6, 2004, Ahmad appeared again for trial at the High Court. And although it was highly discouraged by his defense lawyer, Ahmad Najib opted to remain silent to avoid his previous statements and confession to be cross-examined. His silence, however, did not do him any good, as this was seen as an admission of guilt by the High Court. He was found guilty of the abduction, rape, and murder of Canny Ong, and was sentenced to death on February 2005. After many previous failed attempts at pleading this decision, his final plea of overturning his sentence was rejected in 2009. And after 13 years of committing one of the most horrific crimes Malaysia has ever known, Ahmad Najib bin Aris was hanged to death on September 23, 2016, at the age of 40. That was quite a heavy one. Definitely one of the heaviest cases that I have covered in this channel so far. But as usual, I would love to hear your thoughts on this case. Up until this day, some people speculate that they got the wrong guy and Canny's real murderer is still at large. People suspect this mostly because, according to them, Ahmad Najib did not look the part because he didn't look evil and instead just gave out regular guy vibes. Now, personally, there is no doubt in my mind that he was guilty. Aside from the forensic evidence piled up against him, he knew so many details that were not made public until the actual trial. I mean, a lot of criminals don't exactly look the part, and that's how most of them successfully commit their crimes, like Jeffrey Dahmer or Ted Bundy. Those two don't look like murderers at all. But anyway, that is all that I have for you guys for today's video. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you guys tomorrow.